For 10,000 years, the Vorn Hegemony had ruled the galaxy with an iron will. Across 7 spiral arms, beneath 1,000 suns, their purple-skinned fleets moved like predators through an ocean of lesser civilizations. They were old, they were powerful, and they had never, not once, faced a species that dared to resist them. But on the edge of galactic space, on a blue-green world orbiting a yellow star, something had changed. Earth had joined the stars just 73 cycles ago, barely a heartbeat in cosmic time. A fledgling civilization, barely past its own wars, suddenly thrust into the infinite expanse with technology gifted by the collective, those ancient, merciful beings who elevated young species to the stars. And humanity, in those short decades, had done something no one expected. They had thrived. It started with a simple message, a hollow transmission that blazed across the void like a spark. This is the Vorn Hegemony. You will acknowledge our sovereignty. You will send tribute to our capital world, Vorshikar, within 30 cycles. Failure to comply will result in planetary dissolution. The message arrived at Earth's unified command center on a Tuesday morning. Commander Sarah Chen read it while drinking coffee, a small human ritual that centered her mind, and then she did something that would echo across the stars for generations to come. She laughed, not out of bravado, not out of ignorance, but out of something the Vorn had never possessed. She laughed because she understood something profound about the human spirit, about what made her people capable of impossible things. The Vorn Hegemony had not expected a response. They had certainly not expected this one. Earth acknowledges receipt of your message. We will not be sending tribute. Instead, we would like to invite your leadership to our world for a dialogue between equals. Coordinates attached. We believe the galaxy is large enough for all species to coexist with honor. The response traveled faster than light itself, carried on quantum channels that defied the speed limit of physics. And when it reached the throne world of the hegemony, it caused something unprecedented. Confusion. The Vorn regent, a being called Korthvex, 7 centuries old, scarred from countless wars, with eyes like burning coals, read the message twice. Then a third time, his scale-covered fingers trembled across the armrest of his throne. They refuse. His voice sounded like thunder through a canyon. Yes, my lord, whispered the communications officer, herself trembling. And they invite us to dialogue. Korthvex rose to his full height, nearly 3 meters of muscle and ancient fury. How dare they? Send the fleet. Destroy them. I want their planet to become a dead cinder floating through space. I want their sun dimmed by the shadows of our warships. And so the Vorn fleet departed. Humanity watched them come. Not with fear, though fear would have been reasonable. The Vorn fleet was magnificent and terrible. 300 warships, each one capable of turning an entire world to ash. They moved through space like a predator's hand closing into a fist, and the message they carried was written in the language of annihilation. But humans had something the Vorn had never truly understood. They had something that came not from military doctrine or ancient traditions of conquest, but from something deeper. They had hope, and more than that, they had prepared. In the weeks that followed, something extraordinary happened across the human worlds. Started small. On Luna, the mining colonies began construction. On Mars, the research stations mobilized. In the asteroid belts, the industrial complexes hummed with new purpose. And on Earth herself, in cities and towns across every continent, humans of every nation, former enemies, now unified in common cause, worked night and day. They built. In laboratories, human engineers designed something no one had asked them to build. Something that should have been impossible. In factories powered by fusion and staffed by workers who slept little and dreamed of better futures, they manufactured the components. Ships, thousands of them. Small compared to Vorn vessels, but there was a crucial difference. These ships were crewed by humans. Commander Chen stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, humanity's first true warship, built not for conquest, but for defense. Around her, the greatest minds of Earth worked in concert. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, and programmers who had learned to speak the language of the stars. How long? she asked. "The Vorn fleet will reach Earth orbit in 2 hours," replied Dr. Marcus Webb, humanity's top tactical analyst. His voice was calm, but his hands weren't. "We'll have one chance to execute this. One chance." That was all humanity ever needed. As the Vorn fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel, surrounding Earth like a closing fist, they expected to see a world in chaos. Panic in the streets, leaders scrambling to negotiate, humiliation and surrender. Instead, they were met with silence. A silence so profound it could be felt through the quantum channels. The Vorn regent, observing from his flagship, leaned forward on his throne. "Where are their defense systems?" he demanded. "Gone, my lord," came the nervous reply. "There is no military resistance. All their weapons are dark." Korthvex smiled. It was a smile like a predator's rictus grin. "Then they have surrendered already. Begin bombardment. Leave nothing." Wait, the word came from Earth. Not from a military commander, not from their leader, but from Dr. Sarah Chen herself, speaking not through weapons or war channels, but through every broadcasting frequency, every public channel, every means of communication humanity possessed. "Wait, because I want to show you something. Something I think you should understand before you do this." Korthvex raised his ancient hand, halting the bombardment by a heartbeat. Curiosity, that dangerous thing, flickered in his eyes. "Speak," he commanded. And then Sarah Chen told them a story. Not about human military might, there was none that could match the Vorn, but about something else entirely. She told them about the first human who volunteered to fly into space. A woman named Valentina, who sat atop a rocket that could explode at any moment and rode it into the unknown. She told them about the first humans who landed on their moon, walking on a barren rock to prove something to themselves and their species. She told them about the humans who built hospitals and schools in the harshest environments they could find, not for resources but for hope. About the artists who sang and danced and created beauty in the face of despair. About the scientists who spent their entire lives chasing questions that might never be answered, simply because the pursuit itself was sacred. She told them about love, about sacrifice, about humans who had saved members of other species at cost to themselves, even when those species threatened them. And as she spoke, something happened that the Vorn had never witnessed. The human ships began to move, not in attack formation, but in a spiral pattern that wrapped around the Vorn fleet. And as they moved, they transmitted something. Every human ship broadcasted the same image. It was a child, a human child, no more than 8 years old, looking up at the stars with eyes full of wonder. And beside her, transmitted by the Vorn's own sensors, was the image of a Vorn child, rarely shown, almost never seen by other species, looking at the same stars with the identical expression. "We are not so different as you believe." Sarah Chen's voice came through the channels, steady and clear. "My people have wanted to reach the stars since we first looked up at the night sky. We did not build our ships to conquer. We built them to explore, to meet, to understand, to become part of something greater than ourselves." She paused. "And I believe, deep in my heart, that somewhere beneath the conquest and the empire, your people wanted that too once. Before the conquest became everything." The Vorn flagship went silent. Not the silence of calculation or strategy, the silence of something being remembered, something long buried. Korthvex stood from his throne. Around him, his officers watched, waiting for the order to destroy. But the ancient Vorn regent walked to the viewport and looked out at the human ships arrayed before him. Not in a hostile pattern, but in a pattern that was beautiful. A spiral. The same spiral that appeared in nature, in DNA, in the mathematics of the universe itself. "Stand down," Korthvex whispered. "My lord," his commander questioned, stunned. "Stand down," he repeated, his voice stronger now. "All vessels, power down weapons. Stand down." And in that moment, the greatest act of military preparation in human history, the ships built, the defenses arranged, the sacrifice prepared, was transformed into something else entirely. A gesture of peace. The Vorn fleet's 300 warships strong, the military might of 10,000 years of conquest, stood down. One by one, their weapons powered offline. Their engines fell silent. What followed was not the tribute the Vorn had demanded. Instead, it was something the galaxy had never witnessed. The Vorn Hegemony, for the first time in its existence, sat down as equals with another civilization. The negotiations took weeks, not because of conflict, but because there was so much to discuss, so much to learn. The Vorn told human stories of their ancient past, when their people had also been explorers. Before the conquest, before the endless pursuit of power had become the only measure of existence. And the humans taught them something different, that there could be strength in vulnerability, that the greatest power was not in destruction, but in creation. In art, in science, in the simple act of caring for one another. Korthvex, when he finally visited Earth, stood in a garden. A simple garden on a world orbiting a yellow star, far from his throne. And he watched a human child give him a flower, not out of fear, but out of genuine offering. And for the first time in 700 years, the Vorn regent wept. And so the Vorn Hegemony learned what every civilization, given the chance, eventually discovers. That humanity's true strength has never been in weapons or warfare. It lies in something far more powerful. The unshakable belief that all sentient beings are capable of more than conquest. That understanding can bridge any divide. That hope, real hope, is the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. The galaxy has had many empires, but it had never seen a species that could choose peace not from weakness, but from a deep, unshakable understanding of what makes civilization worth preserving. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the Vorn Hegemony understood something profound. They understood what it truly meant to be human. If this story moved you, if it made your heart swell with pride for what we could become among the stars, please subscribe for more tales of humanity's journey through the cosmos. Because somewhere out there, among the infinite worlds and countless stars, our future awaits. And it is magnificent.